I was an engineer, and in 2008, lost my job due to the economic collapse. Jobs were scarce. I didn't know where to turn to get help updating my resume. Online services and coaches charge hundreds, even thousands of dollars. I took matters into my own hands and learned how to craft interview-winning resumes. Shortly later, I landed a job with a Fortune 500 company. I have helped many achieve similar success. Now I share my tips to create interview-winning resumes, interviewing excellence, and high-performance growth strategies on my podcast, Career Growth Made Easy. Welcome back to the Career Growth Made Easy podcast. I'm your host, Craig Ansell. We are rolling right into episode 109, 5 Ways to Unwind During the Summer. If you've listened to the last couple of episodes, you might know that I was blessed to attend Podfest 22. I want to thank my podcast host, Buzzsprout, for this year's show tickets. They've been a very great podcast service provider, and this has been a really great gift to be able to attend Podfest once again. This time it was in Orlando. You know, I met some really great business connections during the show, but also I believe I made a friend or two and reconnected with a couple of old ones. One friend I made was Joey. In the event, I had arrived early, and she invited me to sit at our VIP section table near the front stage. At that table, we shared on our podcasts and our missions. I don't want to do Joey any injustice on her mission, but I can tell you from her social media posts, there was a common theme, I would say, of grace, gratefulness, and just overall love. One takeaway I've seen and felt from her posts is about self-love and self-belief. If you don't love yourself, then how can you fully love what you do or love others? She shared also at our table that she prior worked in Hollywood. I think that's a pretty cool thing. I mean, most of the time when you hear that, people are actively engaged on the movie set or working with actors or actresses or maybe stunts. This is something she did, though, in the past. And she actually didn't share in a way that was braggish. It was just that she was proud of what she had done and what she had accomplished. I think she said she had worked over 15 years in Hollywood, which is pretty freaking awesome. The other day, I was commenting on one of Joey's posts on social media, and I looked down, and who would you believe commented but none other than Sylvester Stallone? You might know him best for his Rocky series movies, Rambo, Demolition Man, and a host of other movies. That just made me smile and made me remember my conversation in person with Joey during the show. While being genuine and focused on my conversation with Joey and other podcasters and business owners as we exchange information and backgrounds, there was always something lurking in the back of my mind. Though I was on PTO, or paid time off during this time, you could say I felt that I was on call, continually monitoring both my personal phone for family check-ins and status updates, but also my work phone for any project messages or statuses, something that might need my support on. My group director actually jokingly calls PTO pretend time off. And part of that message is what is about today's show, 5 ways to unwind during summer. We might actually take time off to enjoy with friends, family, or do solo trips. But do we truly disconnect and do we truly unwind? That is the question I pose. I know that for myself, when I used to go on PTO or vacation with family and friends, I would always carry my 2 phones with me, my personal and my business phone. There were a number of times that I would be interrupted. The phone calls, the texts, the emails, didn't care what I was doing or what I was involved in, whether it was relaxing in a hammock at a beach or hiking through the trails in a park or maybe out fishing, possibly. It didn't matter. I tell people that businesses are machines, and if you keep giving, the business will keep taking. That's not to say that you, your business, and the people you work with are heartless and selfish. It's just the nature of business. Businesses have customers, and ultimately they have needs. Those customers' needs, well, they need to be met. I don't know how else to say it. But today's show about the 5 ways to unwind, it's really about completely disconnecting, if at all possible. I'm going to tell you a real life story of how I started to do that for myself and also for someone I work for. You might want to consider a functional backup. This is someone that is competent and capable of doing same or similar work that you do, and that can be your delegated authority while you're away. You'd want to get their approval, have discussions with them on what projects, what tasks, what actions are going to be happening likely while you're gone, and then connections to help them resolve matters since they don't have the personal, direct knowledge that you do of the events, the customers, the situations at hand. With that, you'd also need to get your manager's approval to have a fill-in or a substitute. Ultimately, you can be reached if absolutely necessary, but we're trying to avoid that as we're trying to get you to truly disconnect from your work and life situation so you have a good balance and recharge. In another case, I was fortunate that I was asked to be my manager's backup in the last couple of cycles as he's taken PTO or vacation time. It started with getting our director's approval so that he was in agreement that that exchange would occur and that he was confident with my abilities to support our manager in his absence. Then it started with building trust and confidence, not only with them, rather improving that trust and confidence, but not only with them, but with the team members that they supported. The team members need to be confident that while someone was away, they were in capable hands with yours truly. Now, the first couple of vacations or times that our manager took extended PTO, he did get a few calls and he got a few texts and even some emails seeming that they were eminently critical that he respond. But after the second year, I'm proud to say that the work interruptions have been down to zero. Not only once, but twice he's been able to take extended PTO or vacation and actually wasn't bothered or interrupted once. Now, that's not to say that there were not any urgent matters that did not come up. However, people chose to solve those matters differently without the need for escalating to his support in management, or they reached out to me to get some advice and feedback on the matter, truly to determine if that matter needed to be solved then there at that time, or could it simply wait until our manager was back in the office. Now, if you don't feel comfortable totally disconnecting, maybe you could start off with a partial disconnect. How would that work, though? Let's envision that. I think you could agree on certain times and certain days that you would check in by work phone, email, check your voicemail, and text. That way you can be counted on to be online, if you will, during those specific times and days, and if someone truly needs your help, they could reach out to you directly. Otherwise, you would be off limits, unless, of course, a critical emergency came up that only you could resolve. In a prior episode, I talked about looking in the mirror, and sometimes the fact that we can be our own worst critic. What I meant by that was that sometimes we're harsher on ourselves than others are. In today's episode context, sometimes we can be our own worst enemy, and that is being the jack of all trades. I even talked about that in episode 92. I kept going and didn't shut down until I was exhausted at the end of each day. It's great to have a varied background and being mechanically adept. Having an electrical engineering degree certainly doesn't help either, because I certainly can approach things from a different level when it comes to computers, electronics, vehicles, heck, even pinball repair. Sometimes when the machines are dead, don't have a heartbeat, as I say, I can bring them back to life because I look at things from a design engineer's viewpoint and then can use my background in technical repair and my hands-on skills to bring things back to life and give them a heartbeat. But what am I talking about with all this? The functional backup, the completely disconnecting from your work-life balance, right? And just separating. It's important to get a mental recharge, a mental refresher. And if you don't do that, then you really don't get a full recharge. You just kind of come in partly rejuvenated, and you could even burn out when you come back from your vacation. Some people have said when they go back to work that they need a vacation from their vacation just to catch up. I don't know about you, but I've certainly come back sometimes after partially or completely disconnecting to a mountain of emails and a mountain of voicemails. Sometimes there was time-sensitive information on there. You almost wonder if the recipients didn't get the response that said, rather, the senders didn't get your out-of-office message that said, hey, I'm going to be out of the office for a period of X days. If you need something, please contact so-and-so. And as an absolute dire emergency, contact me directly on my cell phone. Those due dates have come and gone, and I've come back to the office, and guess what? The world didn't fall apart. I didn't lose my job, and the company kept chunking along. So, how important are those deadlines? Generally, treat them with respect, and they're critical. But sometimes other people can actually fill in for you. Are we indispensable, or are we irreplaceable? That's something I talked about in a prior episode as well. Now, talking about mentally refreshing. One of the things that I enjoy doing is book reading. And that's a great way just to step away from the action when you're possibly on PTO or vacation and just do some book reading for enjoyment. You can also do it, though, for education. You can do audiobooks or print books. And now, of course, there's electronic books online that you can read. I'm fortunate that I actually enjoy speed reading, and I learned that, well over 10 years ago, and it's something that I've picked up, and I think others can, that really benefits because it helps you consistently absorb information and at a higher rate of speed so you can get more throughput, more content absorbed. By the way, when you're on PTO and you take some vacation, if you start to learn how to speed read, I challenge you. First of all, I congratulate you. Second, I challenge you. Did you know that you have the opportunity to speed listen? For certain shows, certain speakers, their cadence, their speed, their pitch might be a little too slow for you. I know some speakers are too slow for me. There's a lot of lengthy pauses and a lot of silence. I'd suggest starting to try to listen to some podcasts and other shows that could be for educational purposes, even if we talk about hobbies in a few moments and somebody's giving you an explanation or tutorial or instructions on a hobby. If they're slow speaking, to make sure that you digest the information, once you get comfortable with them and listening to them, you might want to try listening at 1.25 times, 1.5, or even 2 times or faster. I know it sounds funny, and the speaker's voice, their pitch will change because obviously you're increasing the speed, so you're increasing the pitch. But your brain is smart enough, just like with speed reading, to read faster than you typically talk. Your brain is smart enough to process at higher speeds. So think about that. Take some time, enjoy some books, just for personal enjoyment as well as consider for education, and think about speed reading. Even if you boost your reading by 25 or 50%, your rate for reading, you've gained something there that you can spend more time on, either enjoying books and education or on other things in your life. And I've got a library of books that I would recommend. If there's any particular interest that you're curious about or areas that you're interested in and might want some book recommendations, I am certainly happy to give you a guiding hand with that. Reach out to me on social media at Craig Ansell. That's CraigAncel, and I'll be happy to give you some personal book recommendations from my library to line up with where you are in your personal and professional career growth journeys. Now, we've talked about a number of things: completely disconnecting, looking at a functional backup for yourself, or being a functional backup for someone in your group. Being careful of being a jack of all trades because it can cause you to not completely disconnect and know that you have to pull the cord, pull the chain, and say, hey, there's limits to how much I can do for self and for others. Taking a mental break, just completely disconnecting. And that mental break includes, as I mentioned earlier, getting away from your work's social media and all their electronic devices, computers, laptops, tablets, cell phones, texts, email, everything. With that mental break, think about book reading, yes, for enjoyment or for educational purposes. That can be followed by investing in yourself. Spend some time building up your values, your capabilities. And part of that can come from that book reading, or maybe you'd like to take a course online. Nowadays, there are so many options available for education, learning, and growth. If you're interested in boosting your resume or learning how to write improved resumes that get interview-winning results, you might want to consider my course, my Resume Masterclass. It currently comes with the Cover Letter Masterclass as a bonus. If you've not been familiar with cover letters or have the infrequent need to write them and find them daunting, my Cover Letter Masterclass breaks down from a blank sheet of paper to a finished product. It walks you through from creation to end. You will come out with a complete cover letter ready for whatever job you target. So, consider that, investing time in yourself and being prepared with your next resume for your next job or a potential promotion, as well as having the ability to write cover letters on demand. The next thing you could do is a staycation. That's a home-based vacation if you're not familiar. What you can do, though, is explore local areas in greater detail. Learn more about your hometown, maybe visit some historical areas, find out more about how the town was built, what its foundations are, what its cores are. Just a lot of great things to do. I happen to enjoy nature, so when I run or when I bike, I love seeing wildlife. I occasionally will post on my personal about seeing a hawk or an owl or some other form of wildlife. You never know. And then finally, if you're like Craig, I've been there, done that. I just don't know what else to do. How do I truly unwind during summer or some time off from work? You can always pick up a new hobby. That's right. What would that hobby be? Would it be something that you use on your skills that you use on a daily basis for your work, for your job, or that you've already experienced in high school, college, or some point when you were younger? Or would you challenge yourself and just say, this particular sport, this particular venture, this particular area has always caused me to get excited, and it's always interested me. I'm going to stretch myself to my limits and pick up a new hobby, something I may not be good at all with initially, but that I can truly envision seeing the end in mind, the end game, and having a finished product, something that I can say my hobby has built with my own hands, my own knowledge and experience. Who knows what that would be? There's anything from soap making to candle making to wood carving to home furniture repair to just a variety of things. Heck, maybe build your own furniture. I don't know. But in the end, just consider a new hobby. I wanted to give you a few ideas during this episode, how to unwind, 5 ways to do it during the summer. And before we close, I'm going to challenge you with something. I started out the show after mentioning how I felt that I was always on during my PTO, kind of on call. And I said that I should completely disconnect, but I also recommend that you do to truly get a full mental refresher, a mental break. The challenge I've posed to you is this. When you go on PTO, whether it's for short term, just a few days, or for extended times of a week or more, what does your out of office message say? I'm taking a pause for a reason. Really, think about it. Does your out-of-office message usually say, I will be on vacation or PTO for this period of time? You can contact me at, and then it provides your email and cell phone number? Or does it more routinely say, I will be out of the office during this time and unreachable. Please contact the following people in my absence for, and then you define the project or the task given by a name as a backup. You define the second project or task and give that second person's backup name, and so on and so forth. Or do you just list your manager's name, having full agreement that you've got them up to speed and they're willing to back you up during your time off? I know sometimes it feels like we can't be indispensable and that we're the only ones that can answer problems when issues come up in projects, tasks, or big reports or big items we're working on. But I promise you, just as before you and I were in our positions that we are today, the world went on. And when we retire or move on from these existing positions, the world will move on without us. So while we can provide great value in the roles that we play today, both personally and professionally, it is okay to disconnect and find ways to relax during summer and during your PTO. I've been Craig Ansell, your host of the Career Growth Made Easy podcast. I hope with today's show you found at least a few ways to unwind during summer. I look forward to hearing from you on social media at Craig Ansell. If you're looking for any book recommendations, you want to share on how you unwind during PTO, or maybe some struggles you faced when you've attempted to take PTO, I'm here for you. Would love to hear your feedback and your comments. Have a wonderful week ahead. Talk to you next week. God bless. Thanks for watching. If you've enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe to our channel. New episodes every Monday. In the meantime, why don't you follow us on social media at Craig Ansell on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. To book a coaching appointment, download our free guides, or join our email list, check out the links in the description below.